strong. Just he turned pro what 2 years ago now, Toronto pro.
Yep, 2018. Yep.
2018. I've known this guy for a long, long time. I don't know if you even know how long I remember you, but I'm gonna give you a story in a second.
All right.
I have this guy with me. He's gonna share some of his insight about bodybuilding and training and his career, and kind of just what it's like to be a pro bodybuilder. What's going on, man?
Not too much, man. How have you been?
Not bad. Just trying to take care of myself and do what I can with what I have.
That's good.
Yeah. What about you?
Everything's been good, man. I mean, I guess I'm lucky. Like a lot hasn't really changed for me,
Right.
lifestyle wise. Been training, eating, just chilling. I guess doing what I can as well. So
Okay. So you're lifting right now? I saw that you switched coaches with you're training with Peter. I don't know how you say his name.
it's Patrick Tour. Yeah.
Patrick Tor. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter
We
on
started working
Instagram.
together 6 weeks ago.
Okay. How you finding that?
It's been great, man. So far, I think within this 6 week period, I've probably made the best progress I've made this whole off season. So, like kind of refining things, getting to a point where I'm putting on more muscle than fat because I think I was just getting out of control with my eating before.
Right.
Like, I just actually spoke to him this morning, and I think after doing like the Toronto and the New York Pro, I was kind of in a mental state where I was like, basically like how it is, you just feel small. So I got kind of obsessed with the scale for a while, and I was pushing my weight up, kind of at all costs. So at one point I was up to like 1,000 grams of carbs per day, 200
Holy
grams of fat.
shit.
Yeah, it was rough, man. So, and a lot of that wasn't like 100% clean. I was like eating like Fruit Loops and stuff to get the
Yeah.
carbs in. I was drinking probably around 300 to 400 grams of carbs from like Vitargo and stuff. So
Jesus Christ.
just to get the calories in, I was
Calories.
probably going a little overboard there. So
Yeah.
I got over 300 pounds, and it wasn't the best 300 pounds it could be. And now I'm actually a little heavier than I was before, but I'm not as fat. So it's going really well so far.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Still, are you doing cardio now and stuff?
I do cardio every day. Yeah.
Yeah. How much cardio are you doing right now?
I do.
Typically, what do you do in your off season for cardio?
uh well, prior to this, I was only doing it maybe 3 times a week for
Okay.
about 20 minutes. Now I'm doing it every day for 20 minutes.
Jesus Christ. This guy is focused, laser beam focused. So you got something in sights right now, or
It's not set in stone yet. I
like,
was
if you
I
want to
was
keep
kind
that,
of
if you want to
I
keep
was
that
kind of
secret,
planning to do the Boston Pro.
okay,
But now, because I'm working with Patrick, it's going to be whether or not he decides I'm ready to start prepping.
okay.
So it would be probably in 3 weeks that we'd make that decision. But
Okay.
my sights are set on the Boston Pro.
You look absolutely enormous right now, man. I saw your Instagram recently. Well, I follow you, of course. And you look insane, man. So good work on you.
Thanks,
What do you
man.
feel? You said I think your last post or the post before that, you said your weak part is kind of like your back double bi. So what are you
Yeah.
doing different right now to train for that and to bring that up?
Um, well, right now I'm using only really barbells, dumbbells, and cables. So it's nothing really fancy. I mean, it would be nice to have machines, but right now what I'm kind of focusing on is, number one, I'm trying to get stronger with bent over rows because that's never been a really strong movement for me. Um, in the past, I've done a lot of deadlifts, and I think that for me, deadlifts tend to grow my butt more than it grows my back.
I just had this
So
conversation with somebody just yesterday.
yeah,
I think a lot of people, from what I understand and from body mechanics, that a lot of people will say the deadlift will build up your lower back, but there's not really much there, right? With your multifidus or your fascia, with a deadlift, it's mainly, you're right, it's mainly your glutes that are doing the work because your multifidus can't really, the way that that lever works on your spine to your hip, it can't really pull a lot of weight, and your lats insert down there, but that your lats are not responsible for that movement. It's only responsible from keeping the bar from getting away from you, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I've watched like a lot of high level trainers, and they're sorry. Firstly, I want to share this story because I don't know if you remember it.
Okay, sounds good.
Way back years ago, I don't know if you remember this. I was down at Bathurst in St. Clair.
Okay. Yeah.
St. Clair, and I jump on the St. Clair train because I parked my car there. I was going to do something downtown. I didn't want to drive down there, and I saw you on there, and I think you were living down there at that point. No?
Were you like working construction or something at the time?
Oh no, I wasn't. So I was dating somebody actually. That I was dating a girl that lived in like right around that, like at that corner.
Okay.
And I remember like running into you, and I'm like, holy crap, man, this guy is fucking huge. Like, I'm like, you must compete. And he's like, yeah, man, I just like won juniors or something like that. And that's how I remember you. That was my first interaction with you, and I just remembered the face. But then the crazy thing is this, like, I'm kind of all over the place, and I would just run into you all over the place.
Yeah.
Like I guess you've just been moving around, kind of doing your thing, getting your experience and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, St. Clair and Bathurst, that must have been in 2014. I was living in that area, so I was, I think I remember that. I was probably like on the way to the gym or something. So I used to take the train every day to go to the gym.
2014? You sure not longer than that?
Yeah, because that's when I actually that's when I did the junior nationals, got first place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in 2014. Yeah.
Okay, it felt like a lot longer. Time is just going by really slow, I guess then.
Yeah.
So what are you weighing right now?
This morning I was 311, so that's like a new high for me.
Jesus Christ. How do you feel at 311? You feeling like tired and like gassed, whatever? I know once you get up anything after 280, everything's an effort.
Well, you know what though? Okay, so first of all, like, this is the first time that I've done cardio every single day in an off season. I think number one, that's the reason why I'm able to get to this weight and be okay. Because if I wasn't doing cardio every day, there's no way I'd be able to like survive at 311.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, like, up until this point, I was kind of hanging around like 306, 305, and we made some changes that, I guess it increased my weight, obviously, and I can feel it now. I can feel the increase in weight. But honestly, it's nothing that I can't handle. I feel like because I've been over 300 pounds now for like, I don't know, like this whole off season, I guess 4 to 6 months, I've been sitting around between, 300 to 310. So I got used to it. But, there's a lot of things that go into being heavy that I think, people probably don't know about. And that's one of the reasons why I did that like 300-pound YouTube series, because it's like, the whole like CPAP thing and like how much you have to eat to be at this weight.
I know the struggle, man.
Yeah, obviously it's more difficult to do normal things when you're heavy. But like I said, doing the cardio is definitely a game changer. So, I think it's a big misconception that people think that cardio is going to like hinder your gains. And honestly, I fell for that myth for like years and years, man, myself. So it just goes to show you that, like, if you're not healthy and you're not putting the effort in to keep your cardiovascular system up, then it's going to be almost impossible for you to continually increase your weight.
Yeah. I dig that, man. I've been on that tip more so, a lot more lately, just thinking like, the dirty eating and the consuming tons of excess calories. Like sometimes we as bodybuilders do it as an excess. It's just too much. It just doesn't need to get done. And at certain point, like those calories are going to fat cells instead of muscle anyway. So you're just putting on excessive fat that you don't really need to. Which holds estrogen, as we know, and then it just makes the whole gaining weight and gaining good weight or gaining muscle, and it's just a bad situation, creating a bad situation with all that extra weight. So we turned pro a few years now. How's it different? What are you finding has things changed for you in terms of like, your training? Well, I guess obviously, your training's changed a little bit, but what else has changed? Are you finding that like you're getting more business? Are you finding that you're happier? Are you finding that you're busier? Are you finding that you're just like, there's a lot more pressure on you right now?
I would say, yeah. I mean, okay, well, number one, It did help with business, definitely. I think I've proved that, I can talk the talk and walk the walk. I think people like to see that if they're going to be like hiring me, it
For
helps
sure.
to have IFBB Pro under your name. But with other things, I would say that not really too much has changed. But, it was definitely an eye-opening experience when I did the New York Pro and the Toronto Pro, and being compared after doing like an entire prep as a pro and thinking, oh, I'm going to do well and stuff. And then you kind of land in the middle, and it kind of opens your eyes into really how much work you have to get done in order to get to the top at the pro ranks. So, for me, I might have explained this before, but I'll explain it again for you guys and for you, is that when you get to the top of the amateur, you feel like you're like king of the hill, right? So you're at the top, you're the best amateur in the country or whatever, at least in the show. When you win the overall and you get your pro card, it's like there's the number one high right there. And then after that, when you're pro, you start right back at the bottom. Now you have to climb your way right back to the top again. So I put a lot of pressure on myself doing the first two pro shows, thinking that I would get top 6 and things like that. Because I always try to be as positive, and maybe it wasn't realistic at the time, but I really wanted to set my focus on doing the best I could. I didn't quite make it. I got like 7th and 10th in Toronto and New York respectively. But you know what I mean? It was a learning experience. So what I've taken, I guess, what has changed for me is, I guess, my level of focus, my level of dedication to the sport, because I've already been doing this for 10 years. And I feel like at this point, it's like you either have to really, really love it, or you kind of just get content with going pro and then stopping there. So for me, it was like a big decision. Do I want to pursue this sport 100%, or am I happy with what I've done so far? And really, if I'm honest with myself, I'm not happy with what I've done so far. I want to go literally as far as I can possibly take it. Wherever that ends up being, as long as I give it 100%, then I can, be happy with that.
So interesting. I'm just gonna piggyback off that. At what point do you think how do you determine when you've gone as far as you can go? What's gonna be that deciding factor when you're like, you know what, like I'm packing in the bag? Or how do you decipher, well, you know what, like this was a bad year. Like we've had our ups and downs. A bodybuilding career, you're gonna have your ups and downs. So those are gonna happen too. How do you know when it's time for you to say no, or time for you to say, okay, so I got to step it up another notch, I got to find another gear?
I guess there would be a few things that would come to mind. Like, number one, if I start getting too many injuries, I'll have to realize that I'm not going to be able to progress with like certain injuries. The second thing would be that if I continue to compete and not improve in placing and in the way I look at my own physique, I think that would be a good indication that I'm probably done. And then the third thing would be that if I just don't enjoy it anymore, if I get to a point where I get on stage and it's not the best part of that year, then I would probably have to say like it's time to move on. Because for me right now, getting on stage and competing is like the highlight of my entire year. So if it gets to the point that it's not anymore, I'll have to make that decision and say, is there something else that I'm going to be more excited doing, or what? So
Yeah. Okay, so is there any? You just said if you have a lot of injuries or certain types of injuries, that might be time to stop. Your training methodology and theory, like I haven't heard of you getting injured much. Have you gotten any injuries, and how have you overcome that?
I think like if you're training a lot, you'll deal with injuries all the time. But for me anyways, like knock on wood, I've been relatively lucky that I've been like okay up until this point, but I try to take as much precaution as possible. I really never like overextend myself in terms of how much weight I can use. And I also try to preach as much as possible, sticking to a mobility program, warming up before all your training, and just paying attention to how your body feels. Like if you're going to the gym and you're going to do an incline press and your shoulder hurts, it's probably not a good idea to keep doing that movement. Like it's honestly a better idea to just completely stop and do something else. And sometimes you have a workout that like your elbow hurts, or sometimes you have a workout that your knee hurts. You have to find a way to make it not hurt. I don't ever train through pain if it's something like a joint. If it's a joint, you really have to like take a step back and say like, what can I do to mitigate this pain right now? What can I do to make my workout efficient? Because I think that's probably one of the worst things you can do is push through it when you have like a joint pain or something bothering you. But I think there's that. There's taking precautions, and then there's also just like trying not to do the same thing over and over again too much. Like talking about the deadlifts. You know, I think if you deadlift every single session or you bench press every single session, you can run into those like repetitive strain injuries where you're going through the same movement pattern and then your joints start to take over a lot, and you run into problems there. So
yeah. So so you're training right now, do you train, are you more of like a heavy lifter? Are you more kind of reps? Do you kind of do like an undulating system where you're 1 week's heavy, 1 week's a little bit lighter, and you back off? Do you take deload weeks? I know like for a long time, I never did that. Like earlier in my like journey of bodybuilding, I never did that. And more recently, I'm like, oh, you know what? Every couple of months, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a week and just like hang back a little bit. Is that something that you do, and do you recommend that for people?
I've never taken a deload week, to be honest, but I will take rest days if I need them. So because I feel like for me, like I kind of have like an all or nothing mentality when it comes to training. I would probably not feel great going into the gym and doing a deload week. I would rather just take that day off completely and then go in, or even 2 days if you need 2 days off, whatever, and then go in feeling 100% fresh and then get after it again. But I do try to train heavy as I can within reason. I never go below 4 reps.
Okay.
Working with Patrick now, his training is definitely pretty intense. So, like what he likes is trying to create like a density of the workout. So doing things like cluster sets, things that I haven't actually done before up until now, and they've been like really, really hard. Doing cluster sets, like for example, doing a 4x5, and each mini set of 5 reps is separated by only 15 seconds rest.
Oh,
so it's like
intense.
Yeah, so you're doing as heavy weight as possible for those 5 reps, but you're not resting as long. So by the last 5 reps, you're really struggling to move that weight. Things like I don't even know what you would call it, but doing like timed rest, and each set is less timed rest than the previous set. So that would be like a set of squats. You would do, let's say you do 12 reps and then you rest for 60 seconds. Then you would do another 10 to 12 reps. You'd rest for 45 seconds. You'd do another 8 to 10 reps, then rest for 30 seconds. And then you're doing maybe 6 to 8 reps. You rest for 15 seconds, and then you do another 4 to 5 reps. So that gets pretty intense.
It sounds like if you're working like that, that would keep your heart rate up too. So that's probably what's helping you stay a lot leaner too, no?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the first couple times I did a set of squats like that, I was like really unable to breathe at all, and it was like scary almost, because you can't catch your breath. You have to do another set. But it's also really, I like the challenge, and I find it very rewarding to do workouts like that. So I guess before, if you asked me what my training philosophy was, it was kind of more like basic straight sets, 3x10, things like that. I would like to do a lot of intensity techniques like drop sets and all the basic stuff. I mean, I don't think there's too many ways to make training like super fancy. But I think Patrick does a good job of it, if anything, because the training is pretty intense compared to what I was doing before.
Do you have any training rituals, like anything that you do before you train? Like, okay, I know I gotta listen to this music, I got my coffee, I gotta make pre-workout, whatever. Like, is there anything that you do that you found helped you, or that just helps you get into the zone that you kind of just do religiously before you train?
Oh yeah, man, for sure. I always, 10 minutes before it's time to leave to go train, I always get my intro workout, my pre-workout, and my post-workout shakes ready. So like in 3 different shaker cups, I'll get them all ready. And then the drive to the gym is also kind of a ritual. I like to listen to some music that gets me hyped up. Um, right now, I've been listening to Tyrone Briggs. I don't know if you've heard of him, but like that's some good music to listen to,
Yeah.
especially if you're just having one of those days where you're not feeling it 100%. Definitely really uplifting. So that's usually what I'll listen to on the way to the gym.
Okay. I'll have to take that in.
Yeah, Tyrone Briggs, check it out. It's really good stuff. And he's not well known either, so definitely really cool to like, help to listen to someone that's not super famous yet, but's making really good music. But then besides that, man, I don't know. I'm usually just chilling here at home. Usually, I'm eating within like half an hour before leaving for the gym. And then I usually watch either some training related to what I'm going to be doing that day. Get those shakes ready and then out the door.
Anybody specifically that you watch? Like, who's your guy? Like, coming up watching bodybuilding and being a fan of it, and as much as a competitor participant in it, who's the person that you kind of look at to be like, I'm sure you probably you kind of just want to be the best you, but who's the person that you look at like, I like that, I want to try and look like that, or this is what motivates me, this is what pushes me? Is there any bodybuilder that you kind of look to for that?
Like when I first started lifting, I had my 2 bosses. So I worked at a restaurant called Wimpy's, and I had 2 bosses, and they were both bodybuilders. So I looked up to those guys because I just thought they were like freaks of nature, like just completely like out of their mind jacked. And I would see them like they barely ate any food. Like the one guy who was older, his name was Mike actually, and his forearms were extremely big and he was really strong and powerful. He would eat like once or twice a day, and I was like, these guys are fucking crazy, because at the time I was struggling to put on size, so
Yeah.
I was eating like 5 or 6 times a day, and they were letting me kind of cook and eat whatever I wanted there. So I was just kind of amazed by the fact that some people can be like naturally really big and strong without having to like eat so much.
Yeah.
But I looked up to those guys, when I first started lifting. And then I got into Kai Green really, really heavily. I always listened to Kai Green on the way to the gym. Whenever I was just kind of by myself, I was always listening to his philosophical kind of monologues. And I think I was kind of obsessed with Kai Green's mentality for years, being that kind of secluded, in the apartment by yourself, cooking your meals and stuff. I liked that. I think it was good for me at the time. And then, I kind of matured a little bit, and I started looking to guys like Jay Cutler, some of the guys who had more of a business sense.
Yes, extremely smart business-wise.
Yeah, because at the time, I don't think Kai was so business savvy. He is more now, but at the time, he was more like an artist.
Yeah, yeah.
But Jay Cutler, he's always been like one of my top guys. Ben Pekulski, because he's a Canadian that I'm pretty sure he's the Canadian that's taken it the farthest so far in history. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And Eric Fankhauser, he was a big inspiration for me because of how like hardcore he was with the lifestyle. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I kind of followed those guys a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned Ben Pekulski. Man, I remember that training session with us. Speaking of like injuries, like I remember that session. That was kind of one of those days where you're like, I think your knee or back was hurting you or something, and you're like, I'm going to back off of this, do something else. So I remember like you.
Yeah.
I know that's how you train because I've seen it myself. I did a interview with Killian, who's friends with Jordan, and I was telling we talked a little bit about that session. That like I remember the last thing, the laying leg curls. Like I was like, I'm gonna throw up. I can't show these guys I'm gonna throw up. I can't have them laugh at me. So I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. I was okay. But fuck, did you guys ever throw me under a bus that last movement there? But you mentioned So Ben Pekulski was with us. You mentioned he's a Canadian. Do you find what would you recommend, or is there any suggestion that you have for any amateurs coming up, Canadian amateurs coming up, or just amateurs in general, like myself? Is there anything that you would say, like, okay, this is what you got to do, or like this is the reality? Any advice that you would give to any of the viewers?
I think number one, like if I could only say one thing, it would just be to focus. And if you break that down into follow one course until successful, that's the number one thing you can take from, whatever I'm going to say today, because I think that a lot of guys now have the option of switching classes. And I think you can run into problems with that, because if your mind is not on winning first place in the category that you're in right now, then it leaves other options. I always try to preach this to my own clients. Yeah, like for example, if I have a client who says, I want to do the Toronto and I want to win the overall and go pro in the Toronto, but I also want to do the nationals afterwards just in case.
Yeah.
You're not being focused. You cannot focus if you give yourself a plan B. So for me, it's like it's all or nothing. Follow one course.
Only plan A.
Exactly. Plan A or nothing. So I think, that's one thing I would say is just, make that decision that you're going to do that one show. You're going to win that show. And who cares? Even if it doesn't happen, you can think about that after. But just don't think about it before you cross that bridge.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good advice, man. I know I've been guilty of that in the past, but then more recently, that's kind of been what my mindset is like, okay, you know what, maybe we'll see what happens, but I'm going to try and be the very best that I can this show. And not even think of so much about the outcome, but just every workout. Just like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to annihilate tomorrow's workout because I know what I want the outcome to be. And then the day after, that's one workout. It's done. Okay, it's in the past. The next day, the only focus is what's in front of me again, which is the next workout. And if you can add all of those up, and if you can string together 6 months of crazy workouts for your prep, or 3 months, however long it takes you to prep, then chances are you look pretty damn fucking good on stage, right? Instead of thinking like, okay, you know what, I really want to win this show, and I want to win this show, and some days you go into the gym, you're like, not really feeling it today. Tomorrow I'll kick ass, then you kick ass the next day, and it's just inconsistent. The goal, your mind is set on winning, but your heart and your effort is not really with it, right?
You're right. Yep,
so
you're right.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it's a good way to think about it, because it's like, you have a goal and you only have that one chance when it comes down to show day.
Yep.
You have to have the similar mindset when you're going to each workout as well. It's a separate workout. It's a separate entity. You don't need to think about the collective other workouts that you're gonna go through, because that's separate. That's another day. It's another time. All you can really do is be, number one, the overall champion on that day, on that workout. Because if you're a champion, if you're 100%, if you're an overall winner through each separate workout, through each rep, through each set, then it's the cumulative effect that actually creates that reality when you get on stage. And then it's the same thing when you get on stage, and if you have, that day that you get on stage and you don't feel it, you can't just say, I'll just kind of, coast through this day and pose on stage kind of like 50%. It's like all or nothing, bro. When you get on that stage, it's literally a battle to the death. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way I see it. That's why I have fun with it. Like when you get on stage, if you're standing on stage and there's any point in time where you're relaxed, you're not giving it 100%. I don't even care if you're standing on the side of the stage. If you're not flexed, if you're not 100%, if you're not smiling, you're not 100%. I don't care what anyone says. You're not 100% on that day.
Yeah. Do you think that I shouldn't say have you had like a bad experience, like in terms of like a prep, like something where you're just like, man, I don't want to do this, or like I think I should back out, or
fuck, man. Yeah. In 2013, I had the worst experience of my life because I'll tell you the whole story so you can get the idea of it, but I'll make it relatively quick. So I moved to London, UK, to train with a coach. I won't say his name, but he's a popular coach. who's trained a couple of relatively high-end athletes. So I actually moved there to train with him for 16 weeks prior to the 2013 Canadian Nationals, which was in Alberta.
Crap.
So I literally moved, like, you know, I did everything I could possibly do
That's
to
crazy.
get there to train with him.
How old are you?
I was 2013. I would have been 20 years old. Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
So,
Talk
you know,
about commitment.
for me, when I was in the Nationals in 2011, I got third place. In 2012, I got second place. So I had thought that the only way to go from here is to first place.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time that was the right decision to do, to give it 100%, to go and train with this guy. And I actually really enjoyed it up until the end. So, you know, the first, I would say 12 to 14 weeks were awesome because it was a different city. I got to experience living in a new place. There was nothing really to distract me. I was literally just eating and sleeping and then going to meet him, and he would train me. And we would do that every single day. And, you know, he was pushing me harder than I've ever pushed myself. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And then it got to the point where, you know, I was almost ready to fly back to Canada to do the show. And we had discussed that he would come with me, and I had offered to pay for half his flight. And we were actually going to stay in the same hotel together and all that. And then something weird happened where he said, like, you know, his mom was sick and he had to go kind of like take care of her, and he stopped showing up to our sessions. So, you know, the last 2 weeks I was kind of going to the gym by myself, and I was like, oh, you know, I really don't like this, because you're kind of at the point where you need someone to push you at 2 weeks out.
That's when you really need somebody to be there.
Right. And I was kind of like, you know, I was getting a bad feeling that he wasn't really responding to me and stuff. And then when it came down to actually flying out, he didn't come. He didn't make the flight. So, you know, I'm in Alberta by myself. He contacts me and he gives me kind of like a cookie cutter peak week thing. So, you know, I was doing it. It was really strange. I was thinking in my mind, this isn't going to work. And, you know, maybe that's part of the reason why it didn't work. But, you know, it was just very odd. It was like 3 days of 800 grams of carbs, and then, you know, I was having like Diet Coke instead of water, and it was just weird stuff like that, right? So, you know, I was like, you know what, like, he's the professional here. He's not going to let me down. But by the Friday before the show, I was taking pictures and I could see that I was actually way, way worse. And that's kind of when I was just like, I don't even want to go on stage tomorrow. I was kind of having a breakdown. I was actually at the grocery store going to buy some treats. I was like, you know what? I think I would enjoy just like throwing the show in the garbage and kind of just eating myself, you know, into a bliss right now. But luckily enough, that didn't happen. Actually, a friend of mine showed up to surprise me, and they'd forced me to get on stage, even though like I was very reluctant to do it. I was really like, I don't look good. I'm not going to win. And I ended up getting fourth. So I dropped a couple places, and I was really upset about that. I lost my sponsor.
Jesus Christ.
All bunch of crappy stuff happened. But you know what? I was hungry to come back and do better, because then the next year I only had that final year to win the juniors, because the 2014, the year that we met, I was 21 years old, and that was the cutoff, right? So I was like, okay, whatever. That doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is now I'm 21. I have to win it, because if I don't win it, I can never win it. And then I ended up winning it. So, you know, taking a bad experience and making it positive was kind of what I tried to do, and it worked out in the end. So, yeah. I didn't trust coaches for a long time after that, though. So, you know, I'm happy that I found a coach who's actually really good now.
So I talked about that my first Buried Under the Bar episode. I talked about that with Ronaldo, and he kind of agreed that, like, I think often people early in their bodybuilding career, they want to reach a little too high. That's just my opinion, where it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe go with a coach that's a little bit more local, that can pay attention to you and that cares a little bit more, because if you're just Joe Smo competing in, the Coburg, regionals, and you have, this big time coach that's coached multiple Olympians. I mean, sad to say, the reality is more than likely they're not going to give you the same attention. Sad enough, and I could be wrong, but more than likely, like, you're not their top priority. So
You're right. Yep.
I completely understand, like, that could create a bad experience, but it's sad that, like, you had to go through that.
You're right though. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when I think back to the coaches that I've used, the first coach I ever worked with, his name was Vincent Walters, and at the time he was a trainer at Good Life, and he gave me the best experience I could ever ask for it ever. He went like above and beyond. He like would bring me over to his condo, and we would pose together and stuff. Like, I didn't even pay him for that stuff. He was just like doing it like just to help me, right? So you're 100% right. If you can get a local coach, someone that is like not, I don't know if that's the right word, like more on your level, but just someone that you can relate to, or not even relate to, but someone that you can actually have a relationship with.
Yeah.
Because if it's just someone over the internet and, they're in the States and they have 150 other athletes, then you're 100% right. It's just actually not possible for them to give you enough attention, right? And you're also going to probably pay more for someone who's a bigger name. So not only are you paying more, but you're getting less.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I think I've made that mistake a couple times, and like, I've worked with like Factory Mubarak. I worked with that, and there was nothing wrong with that. It was just the fact that like it was probably more money than I could have afforded at the time. And, I got second place in a show that didn't really even matter. So, it's just, making an informed decision, talking to your coach and seeing if you can make a connection with that person before you even like hire him or her. And I think that in the end, like, a coach and client relationship is just that. It is a relationship. So, you should be able to communicate well together. And you should also have like a mutual level of respect for each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for talking with me today. Well, one more question. So you're,
Sure.
Has it been 1 year since you've been married? How's married life, my man?
11 months. Yeah. So we're going to be coming up to our anniversary in 1 month. Yeah. So June 22nd is when we got married. It's great, man. I mean, not a whole lot has changed for us because we were living together prior to getting married. So, I think that was a smart move on our part, so we can kind of test the waters and get to know each other a little bit better before getting married and stuff. Our lifestyles are very similar. We both go to the gym together, we eat together, all that stuff. We go to shows together. So because our lives are intertwined in something that we're very passionate about, we're both passionate about the same thing on an equal level. So it meshes really well, and even now during this quarantine, like, we've even gotten closer. So things are going great, man. So yeah, thanks for asking.
That's awesome, man. Well, that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for talking with me today and joining me on this episode, Buried on the Bar. We'll have to catch up again, man, closer to your prep, or maybe after your prep, your show, and do another show for the viewers.
For sure, man. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to see each other at one of the shows soon.
Yeah,
hopefully. But if not, then we'll definitely catch up again soon.
Yeah. All right, my man, thank you so much. Have a good day.
All right, man, you too. Thanks.
They're on this like, oh well, like, yeah, I do deadlifts to bring up my lower back, and it just I've never found that works for me. So I guess I'm glad to hear like you're having the same experience.
Yeah.